All right, so of course we're in a moment of suspended anticipation. The president yet to announce his new cabinet, but we're told it may happen in the coming days after extensive consultations. The ANC has secured the 10th member now of the Government of National Unity Initiative, with Al-Jama throwing its weight behind the pack. Let's speak about what we know, perhaps what we don't know, given the fact that not much has been said. Our political editor here at the SABC is Mzwandile Mbeje, who joins us now in studio for a sense of, as I mentioned, what we know and what we don't know. Great to see you as always, Mzwai. Thanks for popping by.
Good to see you too.
I said the same thing, I think it was on Thursday, right? Exactly. Where the murmurs were beginning around whether or not this announcement is imminent. We now know, of course, that there have been very extensive discussions taking place behind closed doors. The president hasn't said much, but he did release his weekly newsletter this morning, speaking about the GNU as this momentous development for the country's democracy. But he also spoke about it not having to be a pact around the jostling of positions. Yes. I wonder if that says anything.
That basically tells you some of the issues that they are dealing with. They may not be the only ones, but of course, remember, there was an argument earlier to say, will the cabinet cabinet size reduced, or will it be kept as it is, given that you have a lot more players who are coming now? So do you then take that risk of reducing it? And then your partners, what happens to them? Because as you wheel and deal, so clearly there will be positions that will be apportioned to certain individuals. And I think the president gave us a bit of an insight into what are some of the issues that perhaps are delaying. He says it's not just about heckling for positions. We must put the interests of the people of South Africa first. Then that tells you that somehow they have to go around and sort out that issue. But from what I know and hear, I don't think we're very far from the finalization of this process. I think what the president wanted to do, given the number of parties that have come together as a government of national unity, he really wanted not necessarily to be seen as window dressing. I'm just using the president, but I'm talking about all the parties really. Not this issue to be a window dressing, but it must be the issue where everyone feels they have a role to play, and then what sort of role should be played. And then once all those consultations then are done, so then it's up to him, because as an elected president, he's got the prerogative to announce and appoint the executive, which includes the deputy president, ministers, and the deputy ministers.
Absolutely. And, you know, it's important to keep emphasizing that it's still his prerogative, but you can't ignore the different reports around what apparently is being asked for and where the sticking points are. The Sunday newspapers, I think it was most of the prominent ones, speaking about the DA tabling a number of demands, including asking for the deputy president position and about 10 portfolios, I think the Sunday Times said. I haven't heard any word from the DA, interestingly enough, about whether or not that's true.
And no one's going to confirm that, because it's quite a number of areas, because even within parties themselves, others feel particular positions are more important. And I can tell you now that some people thought perhaps the DA would prefer the minister in the presidency, as Helen Zille said. But I know that that's not necessarily the preferred position, because the DA would want to excel in a ministry that will be given. So if then you, let's say, give them a minister in the presidency, remember that is more about communicating the government's decisions, so they may not be able to be themselves. So a lot more is going on. And then, of course, there are 10 other parties, or rather 9 other parties that need to be considered. So it doesn't necessarily mean all will get cabinet posts. Remember, there are still chairpersons of committees in parliament. So there's a lot. And even provincially, you can also look at how you do this from the provincial point of view to try and accommodate various interests. So all those are at play here. So, and then other than just the names, so you then look at what is it that this government of national unity needs to achieve. Like the president in his letter put it so clear that it looks like that everyone is agreed on the priorities of the country. So then do you have men and women who are ready to then tackle those head on? Because South Africans, it would be very easy now. If you see complain about your traffic lights or your roads, you're not going to be complaining about one party because there are so many parties. You're basically saying how DA, ANC, IFP, why are you not fixing some of those of those issues that are a bit difficult? So, for the president to announce his cabinet, you need men and women who will be fit for purpose.
Absolutely. Speaking about the fact that, everybody essentially has skin in the game now, it raises questions around where it leaves the opposition and how easy this GNU will actually be to manage. 10 parties, we're told, have now essentially signed the statement of intent, including Al-Jamaa, Rise Mzansi, UDM, those are the last few. And I wonder what your thinking around that is. I mean, of course you want it to be as inclusive as possible. Yeah. But you also don't want it to be too big because it then becomes a bit difficult to manage.
Well, I don't know from the point of view of the ANC. Remember, they invited everyone. They spoke to all parties because, there were about 3 options on the table. Grand Coalition, Government of National Unity, Minority Government. So with all those options, and then you go for the GNU, which then includes everyone. So then you ought to be able then to accommodate everyone. That's why I was saying it's not about the executive, it's about other areas that you can plug it in. So what for me will be interesting is how the relationship between the DA and the ANC, because I think that's where the test will come from in terms of this. I think other parties, not that their role is not important, but I think so in terms of where they are, who they are, so they would know their place. And then, of course, contribute accordingly. But these ones, so there's the governing party, the official opposition, no governing party. So who is who here? So I think that's where the test. If the DA and ANC they manage to then deal with their relationship, so it will hold. But if they can't, so it may be a very long 5 years.
Yeah,
if we'll get there.
If it does, in fact, exist until 5 years, you're right. Meanwhile, in Parliament, of course, we're expecting MK to finally make its presence known. They're going to be sworn in tomorrow, we're told. And as irony would have it, John Hlophe is going to lead the MK party in Parliament, which means this former judge is going to be the leader of the official opposition in the same parliament that got him impeached. You cannot make this stuff up. I don't know if anybody saw this coming.
No one saw it coming. In fact, you will have 2 very prominent members of parliament, even Busum Kweban, who was impeached by that very parliament, of course, 6th parliament. So who will be there as well? It is quite interesting, but I think there is, I don't know whether the drafters of the Constitution perhaps didn't think about it, because, if you, for example, in the instance of the president, if the president was impeached, so he or she can't hold any public office. But here, it doesn't seem to have been crafted to include all of those. So no one saw this one coming, and it's going to make it even more interesting. I think that's why everyone is really in anticipation of that swearing in, because now, remember, he's no longer a judge now, so it's Dr. Hlophe, so we are looking forward to hearing him. Some of his peers have referred to him as one of the brightest judges. Forget about some of the issues that are associated with him. So clearly, you can see that the MK wants to make an impact in some of the issues, not just making noise, but you ought to be able to intervene with an educated contribution in some of the areas that you'll deal with. They have had to change about 21 MPs. So you see, they had compiled, I think...
They pulled out all the stops to get into Parliament, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's really going to be very interesting to see the quality of the MPs from the MK, given what it is saying and it wants to achieve. And I see they will basically, from what we have seen, they'll be more aligned with the EFF. I think Julius Malema made it clear to say they will make this parliament vibrant. So they're waiting for MK, and the MK is coming. And it looks like they will be the ones who really will occupy the serious opposition situation, given that these ones will be by and large in government.
It's a very unique opportunity, and one wonders whether or not they'll rise up to the occasion, right? What's also taking place tomorrow is the swearing-in of Zizi Kodwa. We know, of course, he's now facing corruption charges. He's formally been charged. The systems in the ANC are very clear about what happens in that case. You have to step aside from your role. But of course, there's going to be really important questions around the optics of having somebody like that come back to represent an organization that's told its constituencies that they're taking this renewal project seriously. I
honestly would be surprised, Ayanda, if that indeed went ahead. I know that is the plan, to have him sworn in. So it will really be surprising. Just 3 weeks ago, so he was formally charged, and then he had to step aside from all the positions. 3 weeks later, nothing has changed. So then to then swear him in. In fact, the recognition even from the very own ANC. So if then you felt you needed him back, so on the 14th of June, when the swearing in was happening, so why didn't you swear him in? Why do you want to do it separately from others? So I don't know whether the ANC will go ahead with this because it's a contradiction in terms. I mean, 3 weeks later, you step aside because you are charged. 3 weeks again, I mean, you are reinstated. I don't know. Maybe I'm not a politician, but I don't think the optics for the ANC will be good in this regard. And I'm sure by tomorrow we are likely to get a different statement.
All right, and we'll watch the space. We all know 24 hours is an incredibly long time, so hopefully it all makes more sense by that time. Our political editor here at the SABC is Mzwandile Mbeche. Great chatting to you as always. And yeah, I'm going to keep my phone fully charged in case there's any kind of statement that drops between now and when the president finally makes known his cabinet.